On April 23, 2026, a screenshot went viral. 4 seats at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, sitting behind a goal in the lower deck, listed for $2,299,998 each. That works out to over $9 million for all 4 tickets. The comment sections exploded. Journalists called it a glitch, a joke, some kind of error. It was not. Those listings were sitting on FIFA's own official resale marketplace. And here is the part nobody wants to say out loud. The system did not malfunction that day. It performed exactly the way it was built to perform. FIFA did not accidentally price out real football fans. They built the infrastructure to do it, opened the gates, and then watched the numbers climb. This is the story of how the world's most beloved sport became the world's most exclusive asset. It is about an algorithm, a governing body, and a choice. Because make no mistake, every number you are about to see was a decision made by a human being in a boardroom, and by the time this video ends, you will understand that the $2 million ticket was never the scandal. It was the proof. To understand what FIFA did, you first have to understand what football fans are, not in a sentimental sense, in a clinical behavioural economic sense. Because the people running this operation understood the psychology long before they set the prices. Football supporters are not casual consumers. A supporter following their team from the first group match through to the final, via the official National Association route, faces a minimum cost of $6,900. That is almost 5 times the equivalent cost at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. And yet millions of people still tried. They entered lotteries, refreshed pages for hours, and drained savings accounts. Behavioural economists have a name for this: loss aversion. The psychological pain of missing something you believe you deserve is far more powerful than the rational calculation of what the ticket is actually worth. Football fans believe they deserve to be there. They have watched every match, memorised every squad, and passed the obsession down to their children. The World Cup is not entertainment to them. It is a pilgrimage. And FIFA's pricing team knew that. One attorney and University of San Francisco professor described it plainly. FIFA has been using what we might call scare tactics to create a demand for a ticket and telling people that they have to pay the high prices because if they don't, they're going to miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime event. Loss aversion plus artificial urgency is not a pricing strategy. It is a psychological trap, and 6.5 million tickets made it the biggest trap in sporting history. If you've ever felt like the game is being sold from underneath you, stay with this. Because what comes next is the architecture behind the price tag, and it was never an accident. Like and subscribe if this kind of analysis is what you come here for. The 2026 World Cup is the first to use dynamic pricing, and the United States gave FIFA something it never had before: a loose regulatory framework that allowed algorithmic price, adjustments in real time. FIFA called it variable pricing. They insisted prices could go down as well as up. Technically that was true. Practically it was a different story. FIFA's own FAQ stated they were not implementing a fully automatic dynamic pricing model because prices would not be modified without human review. But the outcome was the same. Ticket phases were staggered across months. The New York and New Jersey attorneys general alleged that FIFA had contributed to soaring prices through staggered ticket releases that created inflated demand, allowing the organization to hike prices between phases. Derek Howard, an attorney with deep expertise in ticketing law, put the structural problem precisely. FIFA closely guarded information about how many tickets remained and when it intended to adjust prices, keeping buyers completely in the dark while FIFA held all the cards. On May 27, 2026, the Attorneys General of New York and New Jersey issued formal subpoenas to FIFA, demanding internal documents on pricing strategies, seat allocation, and sales practices. They were not asking politely. They were asking under legal compulsion. The demand was simple. Show us the architecture. Show us the decisions. Show us exactly how a governing body that claims to serve football managed to leave hundreds of thousands of seats unsold while listing others for $2 million on its own platform. Here is where it gets interesting. FIFA did not just set high primary prices. For 2026, FIFA abandoned price caps for matches in the United States and Canada. a decision officials defended by arguing that restrictions would simply push sellers to third-party platforms. So instead of protecting fans, FIFA opened the door and walked through it alongside the speculators. FIFA operates its own official secondary market in the United States and Canada, charging both sellers and buyers a 15% fee, which in turn pushes prices even higher. FIFA's president acknowledged the arrangement openly, saying that in the US it was perfectly legal to resell tickets on resale platforms, and predicted that with all 104 matches sold out, tickets will probably be resold at even higher prices. Read that again. The president of the governing body predicted higher resale prices and treated that as an acceptable outcome. By mid-May, the secondary market had actually started dropping, with prices down 24% across 30 days, and some group stage matches falling as much as 36% from original face value listings. One analyst outlined a theory that has since gained significant traction. FIFA, unable to sell a significant volume of tickets at face value, began releasing batches to resale platforms like StubHub and SeatGeek, using third parties to quietly liquidate unsold inventory without publicly admitting they had overpriced the product. That is not a market, that is a shell game. While ordinary fans were navigating lotteries and watching prices climb, another group had no problem at all. Official hospitality packages through On Location, FIFA's exclusive hospitality partner, started at $1,400 per person for a single group stage match, with private suites beginning at $43,000 per match and full private boxes for groups exceeding $100,000 for a venue series. On Location offers pitch-side lounges, private suites, and multiple shared hospitality tiers across 9 matches at MetLife Stadium alone, including the final. None of this requires entering a lottery. None of it requires refreshing a page for 4 hours. You call a number, you provide a corporate card, and your seats are confirmed. On Location is the only official hospitality provider for the 2026 World Cup, and the same company also provides hospitality for the Olympic Games, the Super Bowl, the UFC, and the NCAA Final Four. This is not a football company serving football fans. It is a premium experience infrastructure plugged into every major sporting event on Earth, monetizing proximity to greatness one suite at a time. The stadiums that once roared with generational supporters now have entire sections designed around gourmet dining and dedicated service staff. The displacement was not accidental, it was a revenue model. And the fan who saved for 2 years to take their child to a World Cup was never the target demographic. The data is brutal, but the human cost is worse. The cheapest ticket to the final at MetLife Stadium was $4,185. That is roughly 7 times more expensive than the cheapest final ticket at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. Football Supporters Europe, the continent's largest supporter advocacy organisation, issued a formal statement calling the pricing a monumental betrayal, with its executive director stating plainly, "You need fans, you need the life in the stands, you need the colour, you need the atmosphere. With these prices, none of this will happen." The Football Supporters Association in England calculated that following England through a full tournament via the official National Association allocation would cost $7,020. For context, the median annual household income in several of the countries whose teams have qualified does not reach that figure. The tradition of the travelling supporter, the families who saved all year, the retired man who watched every World Cup since 1982 and told himself this one would be the one. These people were not priced out by accident. They were priced out by design. The grief in the fan forums is real. People who spent months organising travel, applying for visas and coordinating with family across continents, posted their withdrawal announcements one by one. Not with anger, with something quieter. The recognition that a door had been closed on them permanently. FIFA had an answer for all of it. They always do. FIFA President Gianni Infantino told reporters that the sky-high prices were simply the result of adapting to the North American market, calling the United States the most developed entertainment market in the world. Developed is the word Infantino chose to describe a situation where the cheapest final ticket cost $4,000. Supply and demand, market rates. The language of economics was deployed as a moral shield. FIFA did not choose these prices. The market did. FIFA was simply responding to the data. Meanwhile, after intense public criticism, FIFA announced it would offer a selection of $60 tickets for every match, distributed to the 48 participating national federations. The announcement was covered as a concession. In practice, $60 tickets spread across 48 federations and 104 matches in a tournament where over 500 million ticket requests were recorded amounts to a rounding error. It was a press release, not a policy. The communication strategy was sophisticated. Announce the low price. Let the headline write itself. Let the $60 ticket stand as proof of accessibility, while the actual allocation structure tells a completely different story. This is how institutional spin works. Not with lies exactly, but with the careful selection of which truth gets amplified. The irony is that the strategy may be collapsing under its own weight. In Arlington, Texas, civic leaders were shocked to learn that more than 350,000 tickets remained unsold for matches at AT&T Stadium, with between 35 and 50% of available inventory still unallocated. New Jersey Attorney General Jennifer Davenport put it in writing. FIFA has turned buying a ticket to the World Cup into a gauntlet of confusion, fake scarcity, and impossibly high prices, all at the expense of consumers and hard-working New Jerseyans. This is not theoretical. The dress rehearsal already happened. During the 2025 Club World Cup, over 400,000 seats were left empty across the opening round of group matches. Stadiums averaged 56% capacity. One match between Mamelodi Sundowns and Ulsan HD in Florida drew an official attendance of 3,412 people in a stadium built for tens of thousands. FIFA expected that American sports fans would pay top dollar to watch some of the best teams in the world compete. They did not. The assumption that North American consumers would absorb any price point turned out to be false. And now, 8 days from the opening ceremony, FIFA is quietly slashing prices and pulling unsold tickets from its own platform rather than admitting the projection was wrong. Now consider what a half-empty stadium actually does to a football match, not economically, atmospherically, culturally. Football is a sport that runs on noise. The pressure of 90,000 people creating a wall of sound is not decoration. It affects players' decisions. It accelerates the heart rate. It is part of the product. When that atmosphere is replaced by 40,000 tourists in hospitality lanyards quietly eating catered meals, something fundamental changes on the pitch. We already have evidence. When Chelsea played their Club World Cup opener at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, coach Enzo Maresca described the environment as a bit strange, noting the stadium was almost empty. Professional footballers at the peak of their careers, in a competition FIFA billed as a global pinnacle, playing in a stadium that felt like a pre-season warm-up. The product suffered visibly. Ronan Evine, executive director of Football Supporters Europe, was direct. Dynamic pricing does not belong in football because it is an exploitation of fans' loyalty. The people who create the atmosphere are not the people who can afford the tickets. That gap between the cultural contributors and the paying audience is not just a fan welfare issue. It degrades the broadcast, product, the in-stadium experience, and ultimately the commercial value FIFA claims to be protecting. You cannot sell the passion of the game while pricing out everyone who generates it. Here is where we land. FIFA will reportedly take home all ticket revenue, not the host venues, not the cities, and not the federations that develop the players on the pitch. The most watched sporting event on earth, played in communities across 3 nations, with the gate receipts flowing to a single governing body headquartered in Zurich. To put the scale of the price escalation in context, tickets for the 1994 World Cup in the United States range from $25 to $475. The equivalent range in 2026 is $60,000 to $6,730 on the primary market, before the resale market takes over entirely. That is not inflation. That is transformation. The beautiful game was supposed to be the people's game. The one sport where a child in Lagos and a child in Lima and a child in Liverpool were all watching the same thing, feeling the same thing, dreaming the same thing. That universality was always the product, and the product is being sold. What you decide to do with that information is yours. Whether you watch, whether you attend, whether you register your objection, or absorb the cost and keep moving, that is a choice. But at least make it with your eyes open, because the $2 million ticket was never an accident. It was a message. The question is whether you believe it was meant for you. If this story made you think differently about where the game is heading, share it with someone who still believes football belongs to everyone.